Preamble.
The Old Boys Club.
Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, August 24th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, and Cemetery Commissioners. Before we begin, I have a disclosure to read. Public meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 20, and the Governor's executive orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Although a quorum of the members of the Dudley Board of Selectmen will be physically present for this meeting, no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The meeting will be live broadcast on Dudley Cable Access Television Channel 192, and members of the public can also access the rebroadcast of the meeting via YouTube. In the event of an unanticipated interruption in this broadcast, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Members of the media who wish to appear before the Board of Selectmen must make an appointment to appear on an upcoming agenda by contacting Michelle Jervis at selectmen@dudleyma.gov or by calling Michelle at 508-949-8001. Placement on the agenda is not guaranteed, however, and persons requesting to appear before the Board of Selectmen should not attend the meeting in person unless and until the appointment has been confirmed by the Board of Selectmen. Persons with matters appearing on a meeting agenda may request that they attend via virtual means, such as via conference call rather than in-person attendance. Such requests should be directed to Michelle Jervis at selectmen@dudleyma.gov or by calling Michelle at 508-949-8001 no more than 3 business days in advance so that appropriate arrangements can be made. However, persons or representatives with matters appearing on the meeting notice/agenda who wish to be physically present at the meeting must observe the following requirements. 1. In accordance with existing requirements imposed by the Governor, meeting rooms will be limited in terms of the total number of persons that may be physically present at the same time, including board/committee members and staff. Satellite rooms will be available for overflow, and the meeting will be broadcast in real time in those satellite rooms. Persons who wish to participate in any particular matter on the meeting agenda will be asked to wait in a satellite room until that agenda item is reached, at which point attendees will be rotated between the main meeting room and the satellite rooms as appropriate. Social distancing must be maintained in both the main meeting room and in satellite rooms. Face masks or coverings will be required in accordance with Governor Baker's May 1st, 2020 COVID-19 Order Number 31, order requiring face coverings in public places where social distancing is not possible. A copy of that order can be found at https://www.mass.gov/doc/May1-2020 masks and face coverings/download. Failure to comply with these requirements may lead to an attendee's removal from the meeting. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, we have the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I
Marcy.
move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, we have resignations from the Housing Authority. The resignation of George Sad Jr.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll read this into the record. To the above noted people, please accept this letter as my resignation from the Dudley Housing Authority. And he goes on to make a statement, and he respectfully submitted, George J. Sad Jr.
Mr. Chair, make a motion, accept with regret.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, on behalf of the board, would you send Mr. Sad a letter thanking him for his service? And as we all know, that Housing Authority Board has become quite a small headache.
Yes.
We could have the police chief expound if we wanted to, but I mean, we talked about it publicly. It's unfortunate We lost Mr. Sad. He was a dedicated member while he was there. And it just goes to show how one person can really drag down a board in town.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Anyone else? Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And Michelle, as Mr. Sullivan requested, I think that's prudent. In all cases, we do that, but this is a special one. Mr. Sad he was a good egg. Thank you. Next up, Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Town Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, good evening. First, I want to start off by saying I'm happy to announce that today's active COVID-19 cases in Dudley stands at 0. So we've been fluctuating between 0 to 4, 0 to 6. Today we're at 0, so that's my positive news for today. More positive news, DMA Holdings. Today I signed off on 3 documents from the Cannabis Control Commission affirming that DMA Holdings' filing of an application and intent to operate in Dudley is in compliance with our local bylaws. This included cultivation, retail, and manufacturing. And this indicates that the application from DMA to the Cannabis Control Commission is now in process, which is a positive sign that the project is now back on track. In terms of Stevens Mill, after discussion work with Camden relative to the redevelopment of Stevens Mill, I'm also happy to announce that Camden has taken ownership of Stevens Mills and has reaffirmed their commitment to the redevelopment project. I've been discussing with our council right up until about an hour and a half ago some developments on which route Camden is going to take in order to meet us halfway and accommodate some of our local requirements and statewide requirements. And I'm going to hold off on the rest of this update for Stevens Mills because as early as like an hour and a half ago, this situation it's kind of fluid, but it's all positive at this point. Full-time vacancies. We currently have, just noticed my own spelling mistake. We currently have 2 full-time job openings, and they're posted, and they'll be ending within the next 24 hours. The first one is ending tonight, or has ended, and that's the combined licensing, zoning, and code enforcement clerk position. The personnel board will be done with their screening and recommendations this week, and I'd like to begin scheduling interviews next week. And I'm recommending that the Board of Selectmen provide 2 members or 1 because it's going to be a rated interview, so there won't be a need for a tiebreaker. So 1 member of the board, or if the board so desires, 2 members of the board to serve on the hiring committee along with 1 member from the Board of Health. And in terms of the Board of Health, I would recommend not the current chair of the Board of Health, as she would be a co-worker of this new full-time hire, the building inspector, and the member from the ZBA. And if we can form this committee this week, we can begin scheduling interviews next week. And this item will appear later on tonight's agenda for further discussion and action by the board. And unless the Board of Selectmen objects, the Highway Superintendent Hiring Committee, which will go through personnel similar to when I was hired, that committee will be comprised of the Highway Commissioners, which of course is the Board of Selectmen. So my priority right now is to move forward with hiring and training of licensing, zoning, and code enforcement clerk as soon as possible to bring relief to the staff member that is currently covering 5 departments and now is doing that unaided by any other staff member, except for Michelle, who helps out where she can. So it's a priority. Personnel board has it. We've got good candidates. Posting ends tonight. I'd like to move forward on it. The informational video that we've been discussing, there's several of them. I've asked the Chairman Siganevich, to work with the rest of the board to assist me in organizing the informational video in advance of this fall's town meeting in November's election. As you recall, I provided an outline of general information video that I'd like to see produced, but we will also need to talk about the Stevens Mill project, and I'm going to suggest that happen in the form of a video project as well, and the debt exclusion question for the ambulance. The informational video could be run indefinitely to assist voters in understanding how the town meeting form of local government works, and I'd ask that the production of the Stevens Mill project and the debt exclusion question videos be prioritized. So, if the chair will work with members of the board to kind of help push this along, I'd really appreciate it. Our library will be opening for curbside service. So our part-time library aides that have been on furlough have returned, and for the purposes of the CARE Act, they're serving as Board of Health assistants assigned to the library to facilitate the curbside pickup model that's required for us to reopen. The curbside pickup at the library begins August 31st. Hours for the service will be Monday 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Thursday 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., and Friday 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Patrons should call the library at 508-949-8021 during pickup hours with their library card handy and let staff know which items they would like to check out. Staff will prepare items, and when patrons arrive in the parking lot and let staff know that they are there, items will be brought out to the pickup table. And library staff are happy to make suggestions for material, or patrons can browse the online catalog at crawfordlibrary.org. We have our highway staff returning on September 14th. Our contracted highway staff will return September 14th to pre-COVID levels, minus one recycling coordinator on September 14th, 2020. Superintendent has returned after medical leave on a reduced schedule. And that is my TA report for this week.
Thank you. Mr. Marcy?
Couple things. I see that it's going to be put out on social media for the library.
Yes.
Of the libraries. Can we make sure that we get that on the town page so more people see it? So we don't,
Yep.
thanks. And I know, and on the full-time vacancies, Jay, you mentioned that the Board of Selectmen provide 2 members on the hiring committee. On the new business, we have 1.
Yeah, we could go up to 2 if that's what the board
Okay,
wanted to do.
I-
I've been going back and forth with
We
that.
talked about 1, but we can talk about it after.
Really, the reason for the 5th would be a tiebreaker, but
Oh,
it's going to be a rated interview,
okay,
so
fair enough.
it's up to the what the board wants us to do in terms of that.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
to
Sullivan.
the administrator, in the absence of recycling coordinator, is it going to be status quo using highway workers to open and run the transfer station?
I'm working out a plan with the union to, I'm working out a plan with the union right now. That's not my long-term goal, no.
No, I didn't think so.
Anything else?
Nope. Thank you.
Mr. Administrator, on the informational video, I'd just like some timelines when you would like these completed as far as the Stevens Linden, for instance, you wanted to prioritize the Stevens Mill project and the debt exclusion. When would you like to have those completed?
So if we could do a informational video for Stevens in advance of the October town meeting, is that the 19th or the 26th, Michelle? 19th. There may be a bylaw amendment for October, so it's important that we get that out there, and I think an overview of the project itself would be helpful. And maybe a video that kind of shows the commitment of Camden Partners to redevelop the property, the amount of money they're proposing to put into it, and the fact that they've taken ownership of the property now, so they're committed to the project. I think that'd be important to get out to the voters.
A month before the town meeting would be enough lead time? Too
The
much?
sooner the better. The problem is that, as I mentioned in a report up until an hour and a half ago, it's still kind of a fluid situation in terms of where we're going to meet halfway in terms of incentivizing the project. So if we could go tonight, we still wouldn't have a script because we haven't made the final compromise or decision or agreement with Camden, so.
Debt
The sooner
exclusion,
the better on that one.
debt
the-
exclusion is a debt exclusion is a debt
The
exclusion.
debt exclusion will have to be, it's gone through the town meeting already, so the fire chief put together a few videos in the past, so he's pretty familiar with how to do something like that, talk about the need for a new ambulance, and there's some other equipment coming up that we could probably put on the voters' radar screens as well.
Okay, sounds good. Nothing else from anyone? Nope, we're good?
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, public hearings, we have none. Old business, Town Administrator EPRS Stage A, discussed at 8/17/2020 meeting. Mr. Administrator.
It would probably be better, Mr. Chairman, if we could put this off until the next agenda, because my final review for FY20 didn't make it onto this agenda. So if we could do everything on the following agenda, including the planning stage of this current fiscal year, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Again, the stage A is that we set goals, we discuss goals and agree to them. Usually the chair, and Mr. Sullivan in the past when he was chair, organized that, both phases, the review phase and the planning phase.
So you're asking.
So I guess the bottom line is everybody has another 2-week reprieve on getting that together.
Okay. Is there any objections from the board to table this?
Mr. Chairman, it makes sense to do get year one out of the way, and then we'll build his goals for coming year
Agreed.
together. All right.
2 extra weeks for gather the analytics that'll be necessary to measure.
Mm-hmm.
Never too much measuring.
Never too much data.
But
Mr.
I've come
Johnson.
to realize,
Put it right in his goals.
Do you need a motion for that, or can we just table that? Unanimous consent?
I think if we table it, it'll just come back automatically.
For
Okay.
the parliamentarian, just table it. It'll come back up.
Table.
If he was here, he would say that. Yes.
Okay, next up, new business. Discuss organizing a hiring committee consisting of building inspector, member of Board of Health agent, member of ZBA, and one member of the Board of Selectmen for clerk, permitting, licensing, and code enforcement position.
Those 5 people.
So again, my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is the building inspector. This is for the combined position. The building inspector, a member of the Board of Health, not the chair, and/or the Board of Health agent, a member of the ZBA, and a member or 2 of the Board of Selectmen. I've thrown those out there just for suggestions. Any sort of equivalent combination would work for me.
How do we get a member, for instance, member of Board of Health, member of ZBA? Do we just, a short straw, appoint one today, or?
We don't have to appoint anybody. It's an ad hoc committee. It's not a formal town-recognized committee. We can do it under just an ad hoc committee.
Any thoughts?
Board of Select, I mean, for us. How about you,
Mr. Marcy?
Mr. Chairman? Usually a discretion if you want to do yourself and one other, or just yourself on that one.
Well, what does everyone else think? I don't want to take a spot if someone wants to do it. I mean, I've got the time during the day and at night where I can do it, but if someone else
My
feels strongly
suggestion would
about
be the heavier lift would be for superintendent, so
I was
maybe,
gonna
maybe
volunteer
the chair should
for that.
tune into the superintendent, and another member of the board, or 1 or 2, could take the combined position.
I could do both if need be. I mean, I don't want to, if it's hard for folks to get out of work or time frame.
Well, I think we're going to have to accommodate night interviews anyway, because zoning board, Board of Health.
Sure.
And we'd be looking at next week to start setting those interviews up. The personnel board will be done with their work this week in terms of screening the applicants.
So what's the time frame through the chair, Jay, for these to start happening?
The time frame would be the screening from the personnel board. Michelle and I spoke to the vice
They're
chair
about to
today.
turn that
Will be
over.
done this week,
That's what
which
I was-
means that I'm going to ask Michelle to start scheduling interviews as soon as that is concluded. So by Thursday, I would think she's scheduling interviews for the following week.
That's for the combined clerk position?
Correct. The superintendent closes tomorrow.
Do you want us to decide who's doing that one too tonight?
The superintendent's gonna be the highway commissioner, so that's a done deal,
Oh, all of us?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we'll just take whatever they recommend with the option to look at other resumes if we deem it necessary.
So kind of like when we did town administrator.
Correct.
et cetera.
It's
Okay,
a
now
major
that
department
makes
head, so
sense.
it's appropriate that the entire board
Yep.
participate in it.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay, so do you want one or two, Mr. Chairman, on this one?
I'll take both. I'll take two, unless someone else feels strongly and wants to sit in.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I would think if you personally are leaning towards the combined clerk position, we probably wouldn't need two selectmen then, right? I mean, you got a good cross-section,
No. I think you could just, you
Okay.
could handle
unless,
one.
like you said, unless somebody else feels strongly
Yeah.
towards it. I mean, I neither nor, because I get a feeling a lot of stuff will happen during the day, I won't be available.
Yeah, same here, plus, the more, it might be a thumb on the scale type thing. I don't want anybody to say that we were doing anything like that, so we 5 people. If you get all these other people that get there, then
It's balanced.
balanced.
I didn't even.
The reason I'm asking for a selectman to serve on this, they generally wouldn't serve on a clerk
No.
hiring, but now it's going to be a position that answers directly to me because it's combined, represents all these different departments, so I thought it'd be appropriate to
Yep.
have.
It is, right thing to do. Chairman, it is.
Chairman, it is.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Wait, do we have to, we don't need a motion for that, do we, Mr. Chairman?
No.
So, Mr. Administrator, you're going to reach out to the Board of Health, all of these people, and ask for volunteers, or?
If you mean, am I going to do it, when you say that, you mean Michelle, yes.
Well, yeah,
Our office.
They take her call, not mine, so.
I'm the same way.
I don't get those
Anything-
calls anymore. No more fireside chats with Ruda.
You're missing all the fun. Anything further on this, or can we just, you don't need a vote on this, correct?
No, if we're content with the one selectman, Mr. Sigenovich, and that's a done deal, and we'll reach out to the rest of them, as long as everybody's fine with that makeup. That's what we'll go with.
Excellent. Everybody's good? Everybody's good?
Yes, sir.
On to the next board member comments. Mr. Johnson.
I'm thinking a lot about the schools going back and the overall tension, just in general with dealing with COVID and the state's handling of the whole process. With that, I'd like to think that everyone could be civil, take a deep breath, think about what you're going to say. Emotions are running hot, and really it's not you're not going to put your best foot forward when you're speaking in that manner. So be kind. Think about what the person you're talking to is a person, and we'll all get through this.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Jay just said, Mr. Johnson. I don't do social media, but members of our board are a lot more savvy than me at it. And Dudley Charlton had a flood of negative publicity lately. I think it kind of dovetails what Jay said. Careful what you say, how you say it, how you present it. Everybody here had children, have children, continue to have children in the school system. I have a family member that teaches in the school system. Everybody's health and well-being is number one. Can't lose sight of the fact that the students and the children are probably 1A. I mean, some of the stuff that was apparently posted out there it just completely blew me away. I couldn't believe what I heard, what people send screenshots, and trust the school department will handle it appropriately, but everyone just be careful. We always say at every meeting, be kind. take care of your neighbors, take care of your family, take care of yourself, take care of the students.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Marcy?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about school too. You know, while, you know, a lot of people I know in other towns and other, you know, around the country, they're already going back to school. I really hope that everybody can pull together and the numbers keep staying down. Again, we're a data-driven board. I'm a data-driven person. We don't have a ton of cases, but yet, you know, we've chosen the school has chosen to take this based on advice from the state and other agencies. So let's get these kids back in school as quickly as possible. They need it, especially the ones that need it the most. Special needs and other kids who just, they need to be in school. So I think that's an essential function that we need to provide for our society and for our kids. But, you know, we have to make sure everybody's safe while doing that. The other part of that is we tend to live in our own little bubbles sometimes when we're like thinking of a certain issue or whatever, and it's hard to like look at what someone else might think about it. And I'll echo the be kind and assume positive intent, like I always say. But something I tell the kids about when you go to, before you go to write something that's going to be in your digital footprint for time immemorial, you know, till the end of time, is, you know, the old adage, never write when you can speak, never speak when you can nod, never nod when you can wink. Right, that stuff follows you, and it doesn't reflect poorly. It doesn't reflect poorly on you if you, you know, try to cut somebody down just to make a point. So, again, in this silly season, it's coming up with elections. Just be kind to one another. Try to understand people that don't share your point of view. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marcy. I'm going to be quick with this. We're at 0 cases. That's amazing. There are a lot of communities that are jealous of us. I just stay safe and be safe. That's it. We're doing great. Let's keep it going. Departmental communication, Fire Chief. Whichever one you like, yellow or black.
Knock with this off. So I wanted to bring up one thing that we had happen this weekend that I thought the board should know about. The town administrator already knows about it. We were responding to a structure fire in a surrounding town this weekend at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had a critical failure of our engine 2. It's a major electrical problem. I don't know what the cost's going to be. It could be substantial. I've already looped the administrator in. The truck's 24 years old. The pump in it's 46 years old. It's our frontline structural piece. It's the workhorse of the department. There's no backup. I just want to make you aware of it. It's on my 5-year capital plan, but my equipment, police equipment, highway equipment, it needs attention. The problems aren't going away.
Thank you, Chief. That's a good point. COVID doesn't take a pause button on this stuff. Mr. Petrinos, do you have anything? You're good? And Police Chief, you're good as well. All right, that's all on the agenda. I'll take a...
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn for this evening.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.